तो कल हमने क्या पढ़ा था? हाँ, हाउ टू बिल्ड ए न्यू हैबिट बाय हैबिट ओवरस्टैकिंग. फर्स्ट, बाय by performing the habit at particular time, particular location. Okay. Or with our current habit, how should we adapt our new habit? Okay. Now, our next chapter is motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Okay. Annie Thorndike, a primary care physician at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, has a crazy idea. She believed she would improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without changing their willpower or motivation in slightest way. In fact, she doesn't plan on talking to them at all. Thorndike and her colleagues designed a 6-month study to alter the choice architecture of the special cafe of the hospital cafeteria. They started by changing how drinks were arranged in the room. Originally, the refrigerators located next to the cash registers in cafeteria. We we are filled with only soda. Were filled with only soda. The researchers added water as an option to each one. Additionally, they placed baskets of bottles next to the food station throughout the room. Soda was still in the primary refrigerators, but water was now available at all drink locations. Over the next 3 months, the numbers of soda sales at hospitals dropped by 11.4%. Meanwhile, the sales of bottled water increased by 25.8%. They made similar adjustments and saw similar results with the food in the cafeteria. Nobody had said a word to anyone eating there. This is actual presentation before and after. People often choose products not because of what they are, but because of where they are. If I walk into the kitchen and see plates of cookies on the counter, I will pick up a half a dozen and start eating, even if I hadn't been thinking about them beforehand and didn't usually feel hungry. If the communal table at the office is always filled with the donuts and bagels, it's going to be hard not to grab one every now and then. Our habits change depending on the room you are in and the cues in front of you. Environment is visible and has shaped human behavior. Despite of unique personalities, certain behavior tends to rise again and again under certain environmental conditions. In church, people tend to talk in whispers. On a dark street, people act wary and guided. In this way, the most common form of change is not internal but external. We are changing by the world around us. Every habit is context dependent. In 1936, psychologist Kurt Lewin wrote a simple equation that makes a powerful statement. Behavior is a function of the person in their environment. B is equal to FPE. I didn't take long for Evin's equation to be tested in the business. In 1952, the economist Heinrich Arendt described a phenomena he called suggestion impulse buying, which is triggered when a shopper see a product for the first time and visualize a need for it. In other words, customer will occasionally buy products not because they want them, but because of how they are presented to them. For example, items at eye level tends to be purchased more than those down the floor. For this reason, you will find expensive brands names drive the most profit, while cheaper alternatives are stuck away in the harder to reach spot. The same goes with the end caps, which are the units at end of the ASINs. End caps are money making machines for the retailers because they are obvious location that counter a lot of foot traffic. For example, 45% of Coca-Cola sales come specially from end of the SL rack. The more obviously available a product or a service is, the more likely you are to try it. People drink Bud Light because it is in every bar and visit Starbucks because it is in every corner. We like to think that we are in control. If we are choose water over a soda, we assume that it is because we wanted to do so. The truth, however, is that many of the actions we take each day are shaped not by purposeful drive and choose, but by the obvious option. Every living being has its own method of sensing and understanding the world. Eagle has remarkable long distance vision. Snakes can smell by tasting the air with their high sensitive tongues. Sharks can detect a small amount of electricity and vibration in the water caused by nearby fish. Even bacteria has chemotrophics, a tiny sensory cells that allow them to detect toxic chemicals in their environment. In human, perception is directed by sensory nervous system. We perceive the world through sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. But we we are also have other ways of sensing stimulus. We are conscious, but many are unconscious. For instance, you can notice when the temperature drops from a storm or when the pain in your gut rise during stomach aches or when you fall off balance while walking on rocky ground. Receptors in your body pick up a wide range of internal stimulus such as amount of salt in your blood and needed to drink when thirsty. I have also observed. Okay. The most powerful of all human sensory ability, however, is vision. The human body has about 11 million sensory receptor. Approximately 10 millions of those are dedicated by sight. Some experts estimate that half of our brain resources are used on vision. Given that we are the most depend on vision than on any other senses, it should come as no surprise that usual cue and the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. As a result, you can imagine how important it is to live and work in an environment that are filled with productive cues and devoid of an unproductive ones. Thankful, these are good news in the respect. We don't have to be the victim of our environment. You can be the architecture of it. Okay. Now, this is this is in the 5 pages or 4 pages before. Author has said how environment is affecting our behavior patterns, our behavior, our non-conscious mind. But we can be the architecture of our own environment. This the topic name is also very interesting. How to design our environment for success. During the energy crisis and oil embargo of 1970, Dutch researchers began to pay close attention to the country energy uses. In one suburbs near Amsterdam, they found that somehow homeowners use 30% less energy than their neighbors, despite the home being a similar size and getting electricity at the same rate. It turns out the home at a neighbor were nearly identical, except of one feature: the location of electric meter. Some had one in the basement, other has the electric meter upstairs in the main hallway. As you may guess, the home with the meter located in the main hallway used less electricity when their energy use was obvious and easy to track. People change their behavior. Every habit is initiated by a cue, and we are more likely to notice cues that stand out. Unfortunately, the environments where we live and work often make it easy not to do a certain actions because they are not obvious cue to trigger the behavior. That's easy not to practice the guitar when it's stuck away in the closet. It's easy not to read book when the bookshelf is in the corner of the restroom. It's easy not to take your vitamins when they are out of sight in the pantry. When the cues that spark a habit, subtle or hidden, they are easy to ignore. By comparison, creating obvious visual cue can draw your attention towards a desired habit. In early 90s, the cleaning of at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam installed a small sticker that looked like a flies near the center of each urinal. Apparently, when the man stepped up to the urinal, they aimed for what they thought was a bug. The stickers improved their aim and significantly reduced the spillage around the urinal. Further analysis determined that stickers cut bathroom cleaning cost by 8% per year. We experience the power of obvious cue in my own life. I used to buy apples from the store, put them in the crisper in the bottom of the refrigerator, and forgot all about them. By the time I remembered, the apples would have gone bad. I never saw them, so I never ate them. Eventually, I took my own advice and redesigned my environment. I brought a large display bowl and placed it in the middle of the kitchen counter. The next, I brought apples that was where they went out in the open where I could see them. Almost like magic, I began eating a few apples each day simply because they are obvious rather than out of sight. There are few ways you can redesign your environment and make the cues for preferred habits more obvious. If you want to remember to take a medication each night, put your pill bottles directly next to a facute on the bathroom counter. If you want to practice guitar more frequently, place your guitar stand in the middle of a living room. If you want to remember to send more thank you notes, keep a stack of stationery in your desk. If you want to drink more water, fill up a water bottle each morning and place them in the common location around the house. House. If you want to make a habit a big part of your life, make the cue a big part of your environment. The more persist behavior usually have multiple cues. Consider how many different ways a smoker would be promoted to pull out a cigarette, driving a car, driving in the car, seeing a friend smoke, feeling stress at work, and so on. The same strategy can be employed for good habit by sparkling triggers throughout our surrounding. You can increase the odds that will think about our habit throughout the day. Make sure the best choice is the most obvious one. Making a better decision is easy and natural when the cues for the good habits are right in front of you. Environment design is powerful, not only because it's influence how we engage with the world above, also because we rarely do. Most people live in the world other has created for them, but we can alter the space where you live and work to increase our posture to positive cue and reduce our exposure to negative ones. Negative. Environment designs allow you to take back control and become architecture of your own life. Be design of your world, not merely the consumer of it. The context in the cue. The cue that triggers a habit can start out more significantly, but over the time. Our habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. For example, many people drink more in social situations than they would ever drink alone. Trigger is rarely a single cue, but rather the whole situation. Watching our friends order drink, hearing the music at the bar, seeing the beer on the tap. We mentally assign our habit to the location at which they occur: the home, the office, the gym. Each locations develop a connection to certain habits and routines. You establish a particular relationship with the object on your desk, the items on your kitchen counter, the things on your bedroom. Our behavior is not defined by the object in the environment, but our relationship with them. In fact, it is a useful way to think about the influence of the environment on our behavior. Stop thinking about our environment is filled with the object. Start thinking about it as filled with relationship. Think in terms of how you interact with the space around you. For one person, each couch is place where she read for an hour each midnight night. For someone else, the couch is where he watch television and eat a bowl of ice cream after work. Different people can have different memories and thus different habits associated with the same place. The good news, you can train yourself to link a particular habit with a particular context. In study, scientists instruct some insomniacs to get into bed only when they were tired. If they wouldn't fall asleep, they were told to sit in a different room until they become sleepy. Over the time, subjects began to associate with context with their bed, with the action of sleeping, and it become easier to quick fall asleep when they climb into in the bed. Their brains learn that sleeping, not browsing on their phones, not watching television, not staring at the clock, was the only action that happens in that room. The power of context also reveal an important strategy. Habits can be easier to change in a new environment. It's helped to escape the stubble, trigger, and cue that indulge to you towards our current habits. Go to a new place, a different coffee shop, a bench in the park, corner of our room you seldom use, and create a new rating there. It's easier to associate a new habit with a new context than to build a new habit in the face of competitive cues. It can be difficult to go to bed earlier if you watch television in your bedroom each night. It can be hard to study in the living room without getting distracted. If that's where play, you always play video games, but when you step outside your normal environment, you leave your behavioral bias behind. You aren't battling old environment cue, which allows new habit to form without interruption. Want to think more creatively, more to be a bigger room, a rooftop pilot, or a building with expansion architecture. Take a break from the space do you, where you do your daily work, which is also linked to our current thought patterns. Try to eat healthier. Try to eat healthier. It's likely that you shop on autopilot at your regular market, regular supermarket. Try in new grocery store. You may find it easier to avoid unhealthy food when our brains doesn't automatically know where it is located in the store. When you can't manage to get to entirely new environment, redefine or rearrange a current one. Create a spark space for work, study, exercise, entertainment, and cooking. The mantra I find useful is one space, one use. When I started my career as an entrepreneur, I would often work for my couch or at a kitchen table. In evenings, I found it very difficult to stop working. There was no clear division between the end of a work time and the beginning of a personal time. Was the kitchen table my office or the space where I eat a meals? Was the couch where I relax or where I send mails? Everything happens in the same place. A few years later, I could finally afford to move to a home with a separate room for my office. Suddenly, work was something that happens in here, and the personal life was something that happens out there. It's it was easier for me to turn off the professional side of my brain when there was a clear division link between our work life and home life. Each room has had a primary use. The kitchen was for cooking, the office was for working. Whenever possible, avoid mixing the context of one habit with another. When you start mixing contexts, you will start mixing habits, and the easier one will visually win out. This is the one reason why the versatility of modern technology is both the strength and a weakness. You can use phone for all sort of tasks, which make it a powerful device. But when you can use your phone to do nearly anything, it's become hard to associate with the one task. Yes, this is what with every person this is happening. Okay. I will read it again. You can use your phone for all sort of tasks, which make it a powerful device. But when you can use your phone to do nearly anything, it's become hard to associate it with the one task. You want to be productive, but you are also conditional to browse social media, check mails, play video games whenever you open your phone. It's mismatch of the cue. You may think you don't understand. I live in a New York City. My apartment size is a size of a smartphone. I need each room to do play multiple roles. Fair enough. If your space is limited, divide your room into activity zone. A chair for reading, a task for writing, a table for eating. You can do the same with our digital spaces. I know a writer who used his computer only for writing, his tablets only for reading, and his phones only for social media and texting. Every habit should have a home if you can manage and stick with the strategy. If sorry, continue with the same. Okay. You can manage to stick with these strategies. Each context will become associated with a particular habit and the mode of thought. Habits through under predictable circumstances like these. Focus comes automatically when you are sitting at your work desk. Relaxation is easier when you are in a space designed for that purpose. Sleep comes quickly when it is the only thing that happens in your bedroom. If you want to be behavior that are stable and predictable, you need an environment that is stable and predictable. Have a stable environment where everything has a place and the purpose is an environment where the habits can easily form. Small change in a context. Now there is a chapter summary. Sorry. Small thing in a context can lead to the large change in the behavior over time. Every habit is initiated by the cue, where we are more likely to notice cue that stand out. Make the cue of good habit obvious in your environment. Gradually, our habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. It is easier to build new habits in a new environment because you are not fighting against the old cue. The environment is for building new habits. The environment is very much essential. So, to reading the book and sit in the front of the mirror and keep my atomic habit books near the table so I can after my I completed my lunch or a dinner, I will come here and shoot again and read the book every 10 pages. This is what I learned with this book, Atomic Habit. Now, next chapter, the secret of self-control, which anyone does not have. We do our tasks in automatically. We don't have our self-control. So tomorrow we will study this. Everyone is, I think, so excited about it, and I am too. So bye bye. We will continue tomorrow.